Have you ever heard whispers from the windswept plains, tales carried on the icy gusts of the great Eurasian steppe? These aren't just stories of nomadic warriors or forgotten empires. They speak of something older, something colder, a legend so chilling it freezes the very words in your mouth. They call it the ice breather. Imagine the vast open grasslands under the sweltering summer sun. A herd of horses grazes peacefully, their coats shimmering with sweat. Suddenly, a strange stillness falls. The chirping of insects ceases. The air, just moments ago thick with heat, drops to a biting cold. A faint mist, impossibly out of place, begins to swirl across the ground. The horses raise their heads, their eyes wide with a primal terror they cannot comprehend. There's no roar, no visible predator, just an encroaching, unnatural frost. Then it happens. A wave of absolute zero washes over them. In an instant, the entire herd is frozen solid, captured in poses of panic and confusion. They stand like a grotesque gallery of ice sculptures, their manes stiff, their nostrils flared. The grass around them is shattered, cracked into bizarre patterns that look uncannily like the curve of a giant ribcage. But there are no footprints. No tracks of any kind? It's as if the winter god himself descended, took a single, deep breath, and vanished. This is the legend of the ice breather of the steppe, a creature from the folklore of ancient cultures like the Scythians. For thousands of years, nomadic tribes have shared stories of this phantom beast. They describe it not as a physical entity you could fight with a spear or an arrow, but as a force of nature, an elemental horror. It was said to exhale a frost so potent it could freeze a living thing from the inside out. Even in the hottest days of July, the stories are disturbingly consistent across different tribes and different centuries. The creature is never seen, only felt. Its arrival is heralded by a sudden, localized plunge in temperature. Witnesses, those few who survived on the periphery of its attack, spoke of seeing their own breath turn to ice crystals before a wall of white mist rolled in. They described a sound, not of a roar, but of a million tiny icicles shattering at once. The aftermath was always the same, a field of frozen livestock, sometimes even people, and the strange, rib-like cracks in the earth. No blood, no struggle, just an eerie, silent tableau of death. What could possibly inspire such a terrifying and specific legend? Was it just a way for ancient people to explain the unexplainable, like a sudden, freak hailstorm or a flash freeze? Perhaps the steppe is a land of extremes where weather can turn on a dime. A sudden downdraft of supercooled air from the upper atmosphere could, theoretically, cause a rapid drop in temperature on the ground. This phenomenon, known as a microburst, can be violent and localized. But could it freeze an entire herd solid in seconds? And what about the cracked earth patterns? That's where the scientific explanations start to feel a little thin. Let's dive deeper into the lore. The Scythians, masterful horsemen who dominated the steppe for centuries, had a deep respect for the elements. Their shamans, it is said, could communicate with the spirits of the land. These shamans warned against camping in certain valleys or crossing particular plains, especially during the quiet heat of summer. They called these places the breathing grounds of the beast. They believed the ice breather was a guardian spirit, or perhaps a primordial entity, angered by the intrusion of humans and their herds. It didn't hunt for food. It purged the land, restoring a cold, sterile balance. Centuries later, archaeologists and explorers excavating Scythian burial mounds or kurgans have found things that add another layer of mystery to the legend. In the permafrost of the Altai Mountains, remarkably preserved bodies of Scythian nobles have been discovered. But other, more unsettling finds have been reported from the lower plains. Accounts from the 18th and 19th centuries speak of discoveries made by farmers and travelers. They would stumble upon entire sections of a riverbank or a patch of earth that, when dug into, revealed a mass of frozen animal bones. These weren't fossils. They were preserved remains. One particularly chilling account from a Russian surveyor in the 1880s describes finding a mummified horse, perfectly preserved in a block of what appeared to be eternally frozen mud, miles away from any permafrost zone. When his team managed to extract and examine the carcass, they found something truly bizarre. The horse's lungs had collapsed inward, shriveled and blackened as if they had been instantly desiccated and flash-frozen. The report noted it was as if winter itself had inhaled the very life from its chest. This detail is terrifyingly close to the ancient legends. It wasn't just freezing. It was a violent, internal implosion caused by an impossible cold. So we're left with a puzzle. On one hand, we have a compelling myth, a boogeyman of the grasslands created to explain natural phenomena. On the other, we have these strange anecdotal findings and the sheer persistence and detail of the legend itself. Could there be something more to it? Let's consider some speculative science. What if the ice breather wasn't a living creature in the biological sense? What if it was a geological or atmospheric phenomenon we don't yet fully understand? The steppe covers a vast and complex underground system. Perhaps there are massive underground deposits of a gas like liquid nitrogen or methane that, under specific pressure conditions, could erupt to the surface. A sudden depressurization of a huge volume of compressed, supercooled gas would instantly absorb all heat from the surrounding environment. This would create a localized flash freeze, dropping temperatures to hundreds of degrees below zero in a split second. It would be silent, deadly, and leave no tracks. The gas would dissipate quickly, leaving only the frozen victims and maybe, just maybe, causing the moisture-saturated ground to crack in strange, geometric patterns as it rapidly froze and thawed. A cloud of this expanding gas would look like a swirling mist. The sound could be the cry of the air itself cracking under the sudden temperature change. This gas vent theory fits the descriptions remarkably well. The collapsed lungs. Rapid freezing of the air inside the body would cause the volume to decrease dramatically, potentially creating a vacuum effect that could cause such damage. This theory transforms the ice breather from a mythical monster into a natural, albeit terrifying, hazard. It becomes a kind of geological dragon, sleeping beneath the earth and occasionally exhaling a frosty, fatal breath. The breathing grounds mentioned by the shamans might have been areas known for this geological instability. Their spiritual warnings were, in fact, practical, life-saving advice based on generations of observation. The legend serves as a powerful reminder of how our ancestors interpreted the world. Without the language of geology or atmospheric science, they used the language they had, the language of spirits, monsters, and epic tales. The ice breather was their name for a deadly force they couldn't see or fight, a power that commanded the ultimate respect. It was a story told around the campfire, a warning to their children to respect the land and its hidden dangers. Today, the great steppes are crisscrossed with roads, railways, and gas pipelines. The nomadic way of life has faded, and with it many of the old stories, but the land itself remains. It is still a place of vast horizons, extreme weather, and deep mysteries. And who knows what still lies sleeping beneath those endless plains? The next time you feel a sudden, inexplicable chill on a warm day, maybe it's just the wind. Or maybe, just maybe, it's a faint, distant echo of the ice breather's sigh. The legend endures because it speaks to a fundamental human fear, the fear of a power so immense and impersonal that we are utterly helpless before it. It's the cold, indifferent force of nature itself, given a name and a story. Thanks so much for joining me on this journey into the frozen heart of steppe legend. If you enjoy exploring the strange and fascinating line between myth and reality, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the world's greatest mysteries. Let me know in the comments what you think is the ice breather, a monster, a myth, or a misunderstood natural wonder. See you next time.